High volume training is killing your gains. It's holding you back from maximizing your muscle growth, and it's wasting your time too. But what if I told you that you could build more muscle in half the time? You probably wouldn't believe me because you've heard the age-old myth of training volume being the main driver of hypertrophy. But I'm here to say that's not true. In fact, that talking point is what I dubbed the high volume training fallacy. In this video, I'll explain exactly what the high volume training fallacy is, why it's holding back your muscle growth, and exactly how you should train instead. Before I begin, I'd like to shout out my ebook. You can find it in the description below, and it's a 65,000 word guide to help you build your dream physique and help you live a healthier life overall. I expand on this topic and many other topics in the book, and you can use the coupon code FIRST5 to get it for just $5, but there's only one of those coupon codes, so act fast. So what exactly is the high volume training fallacy? In its simplest form is the idea that doing more volume or more sets results in more muscle growth. But as I said in the intro, this is not true, and in many cases, it's actually worse for your muscle growth. This fallacy is actually quite intuitive, because in most other things in life, this is actually true. In most other things, yes, the more we work on something, the better results we get. But working out is not like that, and it's very important for you to understand that point so you can make better gains. It was hard for me to really understand that point too for a long time, but when I eventually did and adjusted my training based upon it, I made better gains. So why exactly is the high volume training fallacy killing your gains? Well, again, in its simplest form, I would explain it as it's making you do a higher quantity of sets, but at a lower quality. And you can't ever make up for that gulf in quality with adding more quantity. Now that might not make sense at first, but I know that by the end of the video, it will. The high volume training fallacy operates on the assumption, or as I said in the intro, the myth, that volume is the main driver of hypertrophy, aka muscle growth. Well, again, this is not the case. If that were the case, we would just be able to do a lot of sets of just like 5 pounds and just do 5 reps, and you just take the sets to the sky and your muscle growth just goes along with it. But we all know that's not the case because volume is not the main driver of hypertrophy. What is then the main driver of hypertrophy? Well, it's intensity. How hard you take your sets. Said in other ways, volume again can be equated as the quantity of your sets, but intensity is the quality of your sets. It's how hard you actually do those sets. It's how close to failure you actually take your body, or even taking yourself to failure and sometimes even beyond. I think we all intuitively know this too, but it's clouded by the high volume training fallacy. I think we all know intuitively that if you take, let's say, 50 pounds and you shoulder press it over your head for 10 reps until you literally cannot do the 11th, that's gonna be better for your muscle growth and provide a better muscle growth stimulus than taking a 10-pound weight and doing 20 5-pound sets with it. We all know that the 50-pound set where you go to failure will build you more muscle. This fact is backed up scientifically as well. There's this concept that you may not have heard about because most fitness influencers don't know it, but it's called the Henneman size principle. Henneman's size principle states that your muscle fibers are recruited sequentially. Now, that might not mean anything at first, but in simpler terms, what it really states is that as you take your muscles closer to failure, the closer you get to recruiting 100% of those muscle fibers and stimulating 100% of the muscle fibers. For example, if I'm to lift up this phone, the muscle fibers in my bicep are maybe recruited only 1%. The lowest threshold motor units are recruited because this is not very heavy. Similarly, if I pick up, let's say, a 20-pound dumbbell and I do 3 reps, my muscle fibers may only be recruited, let's say, 25%. But if I keep repping out and I take that 20-pound dumbbell, curling it until failure, until I literally cannot lift up my arm anymore, I will take that muscle fiber recruitment from 25% to 100%, maybe 99%. And if I'm literally at peak muscular failure, which is pretty hard to achieve, it will be 100%. So in its simplest form, Henneman's size principle really just tells us that it is intensity that is the main driver of hypertrophy, not volume. We know this because it is intensity that will recruit 100% of your muscle fibers, never volume. So taking what you've just learned about Henneman's size principle and the fact that it is intensity that is the main driver of muscle growth, what do you think we should do? How should we adjust our training? Well, it's intuitive to think that instead of doing a lot of sets at a sort of medium intensity, we should do fewer sets but at a higher intensity. So lower your quantity but increase the quality of the sets. Again, we all know, like in most things in life, quality trumps quantity. And this is exactly why the high volume training fallacy has been holding your gains back and wasting your time as well. You've been doing a lot more sets, which takes more time, but you've been doing them at a lower intensity and never stimulating 100% or even close to 100% of the muscle fibers. Wouldn't it make more sense to, let's say, cut your sets in half? So let's say you do 12 sets a week right now. Bring that down to 6, but make sure you take each set as close to failure as possible. That'll mean that in every set, you take your muscle to like 95, 97, or even 99% stimulus, and you recruit those amounts of muscle fibers. Whereas compare this to what you're probably doing right now and what I used to do, where you do 12 sets, but you leave 2 or 3 reps, in reserve on each set. So you don't take your muscle to failure or even really appreciably close. And in those cases, you only stimulate 80% of the muscle fibers. Now let's think of it. Does it make more sense to recruit 80% of the muscle fibers in your muscle 12 times a week, or to do it, let's say 97%, but 6 times a week? Obviously, the latter makes more sense. This is because if you're only stimulating the muscle 80%, only stimulating 80% of the muscle fibers, it doesn't matter if you do 20, 50, or even 100 sets for that muscle. You've only ever stimulated 80% of the muscle fibers because your sets are not intense enough. So essentially, what I'm telling you to do is to bring the volume down, to bring the quantity down, but take the intensity, the quality way up. That will definitely increase your gains. It definitely did for me. The examples I've cited so far are of myself. In prior years, about a year ago and beyond, I used to do like 12 sets per body part per week. But in each set, I would honestly be leaving like 2 or 3 reps in reserve. I thought I was getting pretty close to failure, but now I know that I definitely could have pushed further. What this was doing was that I was doing a lot of sets, but a lot of just easy sets. A lot of these sets just ended up being what's called junk volume, where you do kind of more sets for the sake of doing more sets, but they don't really provide a good stimulus. Now, I train way more intense, but do half the sets. Those numbers I gave are me. I only do 6 sets per body part per week, but I really take those sets to failure. I go until I'm very confident that if I tried another rep, like I would literally, like I wouldn't be able to get it up. I wouldn't be able to curl it up, or like if I'm doing a shoulder press, like I genuinely wouldn't even be able to get it past the, I guess, what would you call like the struggle point, right? That's how intense I go. And since I've made these changes, I've made more gains, and the best part is it's efficient because it takes less time, because the quantity is lower, so I'm not wasting time in the gym, but I'm building more muscle because there's more of a muscle growth stimulus per set. That's not to say that these sets are easy though, because taking your muscles to failure is an incredibly painful thing, both physically and even it's a little bit of a mental battle because of that physical pain. These sets, when you take them that close to failure, maybe I'll put up a little example in the video here. It's like you really your last few reps, you'll be grinding. Like your last reps may take like 3 seconds to complete because it's just so difficult. You're getting through a crazy grind. One thing I've noticed now is that like really when it starts to hurt, I'm only like a half or like at best a third through the set. So you really have to fight through the pain to get to true failure, or right at the doorstep of true failure, if you want to train like this. It's not easy at all. And with the added intensity of these sets, you also need longer rest times. Before, when I would do like 12 sets per body part per week, so I do full body workouts, that would be 4 back-to-back sets for a single muscle group, I would be okay to start another set in like 3 to 4 minutes, but around 3 minutes of rest. But now when I do these sets with the higher level of intensity, they really just knock the wind out of you. You feel tired. From a cardio point of view, your head starts to spin a little bit, your muscles start feeling like jelly. You need like an extra minute or 2. Nowadays, since I made this change where I only do 2 sets but at like peak intensity instead of 4 sets, but at like a kind of like medium mid intensity, I now rest 4 minutes between my sets, and genuinely sometimes even that feels like not enough. And obviously, most important of all, what this change has allowed me to do is to actually make more gains. I'm making better gains now than I was a year ago and any time beyond that, where I was doing lower intensity but higher volume. High intensity, low volume is definitely the way to go. Try it out. It's worked for me, and I don't see any reason why it won't work for you. An added bonus of working out this way is that you'll simply save time. So you're making more gains but in less time, which is just more efficient. Even with these 1 or 2 extra minutes of rest I'm taking between sets, overall the amount of sets I'm doing has come down by half, right? So overall, I'm still saving a lot more time doing my workouts, and isn't that exactly what we want? Nobody wants to really live in the gym. I'm sure we all have busy lives and whatever. So if you can get not even just the same, but better muscle growth in maybe 2/3 of the time, or maybe even half the time, then why wouldn't you do that? It's kind of just a no-brainer. One thing I almost forgot to say, there will be a lot of people who watch this video and again have the mindset of more. So they'll watch this video and think, okay, well, how about I do a high level of quality, so a high intensity, but I also just keep my volume and my quantity the same as well. But I promise you, this will be worse for your muscle growth. You need to get out of the mindset of more being better. More is not always better. The reason you can't just do more sets at a high quality as well is because intensity and volume are basically on a spectrum because you can only recover so much. The reason before you were able to do a high amount of volume, a high quantity of sets, was because your intensity was low. As we make these changes that I'm saying in this video, as your intensity goes up, your volume and your quantity of sets has to come down because, like I said, intensity and volume are on a spectrum. And the more you get closer to one side, the further you have to get away from the other because you cannot recover if you try and do both. If you don't believe me, just try it out for yourself. I know for a fact that your muscle growth will be worse and you'll feel like crap overall. It's because we actually grow muscle while we recover, not when we work out. The workout is just a stimulus for growth, okay? So if we can provide a great stimulus in, let's say, 6 sets, right, of a high intensity, there's no reason for you to do 12 sets of high intensity because at that point, you're just giving your body too much of a stimulus that actually is detrimental. It's too much of a stimulus that your body cannot ever recover from. Building muscle is a balancing act between the muscle growth stimulus and your ability to recover. If you have this balance out of whack, you won't build muscle. And that's exactly what will happen if you try to maintain a high level of intensity with a high level of volume. So, to summarize, you want to prioritize quality over quantity. You want to prioritize intensity over volume. Changing your training in a way where you're doing fewer sets, but at a higher intensity level, will build you more muscle. It built me muscle, and there's no reason why it can't do the same for you. Even if you have your doubts, I would suggest that you at least try it for a little bit and see how you feel. Don't be like one of those people who just says no to something without even trying or even thinking about it properly, okay? At the very least, you should try it and let me know how it goes. Anyways, I hope you found this video interesting and informative, and if you did, I'd suggest visiting the link in my description. Again, there you can find my ebook, and if you use the coupon code FIRST5, you can get it for just $5. It goes into more depth on this topic as well as many other topics related to training, diet, and recovery. Thanks for watching. Bye.